this is the music business. And right now we're going to talk about that business. Music Money Machine is a key conversation powered by First Horizon Iberia Bank. Iberia Bank and First Horizon Bank are two well-established financial institutions that recently merged and is a leader in banking the sports and music industries. For today's chat, we got together with business manager Luis Barajas, First Horizon Iberia Bank executive Alex Hernandez, and Billboard charting artist Mao y Ricky. Welcome everyone to the Music Money Machine presented by Iberia Bank, and we have a marquee roster of panelists. We have Mao and Ricky. Welcome.
Thank you, guys.
Alex Hernandez of Iberia Bank and business manager extraordinaire Luis Barajas. Welcome everyone. We're going to talk about money, and how to manage your money, how to make your money, how to keep your money. And I wanted to go right to Mao and Ricky first, because you guys were raised in a family of artists with a dad who was a very successful artist. All your siblings, everyone's an artist in this family. So did your dad ever sit you down and have like the business conversation, or on the contrary, were all the conversations about art and music?
Mao, I think most conversations were about music. And business-wise, we're extremely grateful for Luis. I remember when we started working with Luis, we were pretty much starting out as Mao y Ricky. We did not have enough money to live, even less poder pagarle a Luis. We had no money. And Luis took us on. He's like, yo, bro, we're gonna make this happen. Let's do it. And in such a short amount of time, this has become, this sounds really weird to say, but like una compañía, multi-million-dollar company, which is really strange to say. And I feel me da pena, pero Luis has helped us get to that. And with our parents, thanks to us, actually, all our family now works with Luis as well.
The money conversation with our parents was always more about us being a family and sharing it. You know, I feel like throughout our lives, Rick and I, well, when we were very young, about 15 each of us, I don't think we asked our parents for money since we were about 14 or 15. We started working when we were that age, and it kind of felt, I don't know if it was because Rick and I were trying to prove to people that because we were the sons of, we could do it on our own and we could be, you know, independent or whatever. And I think that also made Rick and I value how hard it was to make money.
It's interesting because your dad taught you the craft, but so he left the business side to kind of you guys to figure it out on your own, and then you find Luis. So how did you find Luis, or Luis, how did Mao and Ricky find you?
Well, I think they were referred by a manager, right? And so what happens most of the time, what people have a misunderstanding is they think they confuse managers with business managers. Exactly. And also they confuse business managers with accountants. And so as a business manager, we're not working with them. We are part of their team. We're part of their, and what they needed to learn was that we help them. We work closely with them. We work closely with their manager when they're setting up deals. We're structuring how the entity should be. We're making sure they're making payments. We're taking care of their credit. We're overseeing their accounting, their taxes, the tax preparation, and it's all one. But the beauty of what we do with, I think, with the artists is that, and Mao and Ricky will attest to this, is that one is, it's not their job to become business managers because they're right-brain people. Artists are right-brain people, right? You want to hire left-brain people to take care of everything else. But it has been my philosophy that a lot of business managers in the past maybe have taken advantage of artists because they don't get involved. And so what Mao does is, I'm actually in my real life, I'm also an educator, right? I've been a professor. So it's really important for me to educate them. So Mao will call me and say, hey, bro, what you explained to me, I kind of got it, but I didn't get it. But can you explain it to me again? And I love that, right? Because I've written books on this, and And he can call me 20 times. Ricky can call me, and they want to know the detail because they want to understand it. They want to be involved in the decision making. They allow me to take control, but at the end of the day, they want to get involved. And that's one of the key areas of working with great clients. And that's why when we were doing this panel, I recommended them because I have so many artists, but I have not seen two gentlemen more involved in their career when it comes on the business side as much as the creative side.
Lois, so you have two artists who, have their right and left brain developed. And at what point do you bring Alex into the equation? Like at what point do you say, okay, we have enough money or we need money or Alex, when do they come to you? Do they just come to you to say, give me money or what's the deal?
No, so basically, again, my job is to protect the client, right? And so what happens is that I have to make sure that I'm hiring the best bankers who understand the entertainment industry, that I'm hiring the best insurance companies that understand the entertainment, especially music, Leila. It's so nuanced, that the business is so nuanced that you have to go out there and look for the best people who understand that. And so when we're looking at building their team, we've got to get their bankers, their insurance agents, the estate planning attorneys. And so I have to build a team. And so that's when I decide, okay, great. They've got this. I'm going to look for an Alex Hernandez who's got a bank, who's in the sports and entertainment industry. And then he sits down and he'll work with me to say, look, Louis, we can offer them this and that, and we can get them financing. We can get them lines of credit. We can get them a whole bunch of stuff. I mean, I'll let Alex actually answer what he does best, but that's my job. My job is to bring the best strategic partners for the team of Mount Ricky.
So Alex, what do you bring?
I think that for us, there's really two entry points in answering the question. I think that there's the immediate one, which is that of the complementing the business manager and the client, and making sure that we, like Louis mentioned, that we are fully walking down the path of the plan, the budget, and kind of the trajectory, and managing the time, the cash flow into the future, and ensuring that there's no shortage of cash flow. And that's usually what really the ideal client that we want to be with and sit with, the same side of the table as the individuals on particularly on this call, on this presentation. Now, the other extreme is, to your point of what we bring to the table. I think that most of the time, not every client walks into a bank's door, especially a bank with an understanding of the music industry such as ours, with that infrastructure. And I would almost call it like we're the incubators, where there are clients that we start working with at the very young age of their career. And our responsibility, and I raise my hand, we're not a business manager, we're not an attorney, we're not a psychologist, we're bankers at the end of the day. But my responsibility, even though I play that role for other clients, but that being said, I think it's important that my job is to start formulating the right infrastructure and start introducing them to professionals such as Louis, and saying, look, you need to start aligning yourself as you progress in your career with the right person.
How do you decide who or what to give money to?
First, I think every state scenario is different. Every individual is different. The profile and the need of every creator, artist, or what have you is much unique and different. It's where they are in their timing, where they are in their career, what's in their pipeline, who are they working with. All these things that you've kind of alluded to earlier as far as the team and who's around the team are all drivers on what you can or can't do for an individual. But at the end, I always remind individuals, we're a bank, we're a regulated organization, and we have to conform with the normal banking laws of qualification. And that's where I think the importance of having the right team around the artist is important, because collectively, if we all sit together and we understand where an individual is and where they are in their career, where they're heading, you could start to ensure that you can help them and solve for them and solve their problems by way of lending them and banking them through time.
Mau and Ricky, at what point in your lives did you turn to Alex and say, oh my God, we need your help here?
We count on the blessing of being able to work with someone like Louis that allows us to be able to get, Louis has relationships with people that normally Rick and I would not be able to have unless we would have had many years of meeting different people like Alex, for example. And so the beauty about the relationship that Lewis and Alex would have is that it allows us to be able to get quick and very personal help from a bank in a way that Rick and I would have had to. I feel like Rick and I, we don't know what to do unless, like, for example, I got a house, you know, and if it wouldn't have been because Lewis had a fantastic relationship with someone that had a constant a relationship of doing that with not only us, but other artists in the past, it allows us to also have the process be a lot quicker and the process be a lot more smooth, you know?
Let me add to that. So my job is, I'm the financial orchestrator, right? I'm there, and my job is I have to really understand the business of Mau and Ricky, not just Mau and Ricky individually, which we do as well, but the business, where they're heading, where they're growing. Then I decide at some point which is the best person to provide the best product for them, because again, I don't sell any product. I am the person vetting the banker. I'm vetting the insurance agent. I don't get kickbacks. I don't get money. I don't get it. My job is to protect these two and to be completely transparent and show them why we're going. And sometimes, you know, for example, when we're getting a home loan, I'll go to 2 different banks because we don't know. Because especially COVID right now, right? There's no consistent money. There's no touring. Some people wanted to buy banks. Interest rates are about the lowest they've ever been in the history of the United States. What a great opportunity, but there's no touring income. So sometimes I have to double app. I'll double app with Alex. I'll double app with another bank, and we see what's best for them. So my job is to see out there is who's the best person right now for their situation. Obviously, every artist who's starting out, like an artist that's just starting out, is going to have a completely different person that I'm going to go to. If I got an artist that's very iconic and been around for a long time, it's a lot easier for us to go get financing for whatever. Maybe they need an advance. The beauty of this, Layla, especially for this panel, has been that, and I will share with you why I suggested Mau and Ricky, because these guys are not just taking the money that they're earning. They're not spending it. You know, they said they're just purchasing their homes, which they have. It's now, they're not saying, you know, what car do I want? What watch do I want? They're saying, how can we take some of the money that we've made and invest it back in ourselves? And instead of having to finance it with advances, how can we be smart entertainers and use our own money to self-finance projects that in the past people would go to publishers and go to record labels to get advances, right? And it's like this brilliant thing. And I just said, oh my God, if everybody had that mindset, all these Latino artists in 3 or 4 or 5 years are going to be so independently wealthy, instead of using other people's money, sometimes at, you know, 10, 15, 20%.
One thing that's important in our relationship with Lewis is our trust. You know, I love cars, for example. That's my thing. I love buying cars. I also like watches. I don't buy a lot of watches, but I'll write Lewis and I'll be like, yo, Lewis, I want to get this car. Can I afford it or can I not afford it? And then Lewis will be like, yeah, you're good. You can get it. Oh, let's hold off on this for a little bit, or let's do this and that, you know? And something that Lewis told us from the very beginning when we were thinking about, or we started making money, and we're like, yo, what do we do with this? Do we invest it somewhere? Do we do this? Lewis said something that mindset grew from that as well, which was the business right now that's giving you the most money is yourselves. So if you take that money and invest it in yourselves, that's just going to keep growing and growing and growing. And once he told us that, we're like, yo, dude, let's set aside money that we could say like, all right, we want to do, the label's giving us this, right? But we want to take this to the next level and visually. All right, like Michael Jackson wouldn't have been Michael Jackson without his investments towards his visuals. We've all heard the stories about how he would spend all this money on making his visuals be a certain thing, blah, blah, blah. And then at the end of the day, Michael wouldn't have been Michael without that. And Lewis has taught us that if our business is giving money and you inject money into the business, that's just going to potentially keep growing and growing and growing. And that's kind of what our mindset has been. The biggest amount of money that we spent has been investing it back on Maui, Ricky, investing
But
it
on
on
what
making
exactly? On what exactly, Ricky? On
different things,
videos, on a tour, on what?
visuals, touring, the team. Like if we want to grow, we need to surround ourselves with the best people in the business, and the best people in the business are not cheap.
So Alex, when people come to you, one thing is to come, as Louis said, with an artist who's really established. And what happens if you get an artist who's just starting? How do you decide who to lend to and how to lend?
To me, I think the first thing in making a decision for somebody that does not have infrastructure is the key questions I ask are, who's on your team? Who's your attorney? Who's your manager? Let's just exclude the business manager for a moment because they can't afford it. But they definitely have some sort of an attorney for sure, and they have to have a manager. And I think it starts there. And then the most important one of them all is, who are you signed to? Who's your PRO? Are you with CSEC, BMI, ASCAP? Those are the kind of fundamental things that I look for. And then lastly, look, I think I'm pretty astute and I follow music, and especially now more than ever, because I got 4 teenage kids that are drilled from the age of 12 to 18. So trust me, I'm in tune with music and all types of music. So I have a pretty good sense of where things are. And coupled with that, I represent 6 cities in the country, different music cities and different genres. So I have a good gauge of people that work for me, of where music is and what's happening and what's not. So I'm giving you kind of the magic mix. If I put it all together in a bucket, that gives me a pretty good indicator. Those are the check the boxes.
Give me an example of, you don't have to name names, but like a case where someone has come to you like with really nothing and you've extended, I don't know, a $5,000 loan. Is there a minimum for a loan?
Well, there's no minimum. Look, I'll give an example, and I'm, we're, privacy confidentiality bank, but I have his permission. I'll give you an example. Young 19-year-old guy by the name of Armando Perez knocked on my door in South Beach when he was 19 years old. And he knew nothing. He said, teach me, help me understand a little bit of the concept of how banks work and how things work. And by the way, a story he might tell you. When no one had the concept of lending to him, I took the belief in helping him out with his first home. And I think he's ever more so grateful. And now he's got dozens and dozens of companies and enterprise. So I think like that story, there's plenty that go around. But it's not because I have a crystal ball, and it's not because I'm a banker and I know something that industry people don't. I just have a good sense of understanding of who's in their surrounding, who are they associated with, and what do they have in the pipe. The key is, what do you have in the pipeline?
Okay, so Ma Enrique, I want each of you to choose one of these 2 answers. What is the best advice you've been given financially, and the worst? Because I want to hear, we've been talking about all these great things. I want to hear about the mistakes. So at what point did you make a really bad mistake financially?
I think my best decision, for real, like it's not even because he's here, but my best decision,
I know what he's gonna say,
has been
working with Luis Barajas.
And working
Let's
with
go.
Luis. Let me tell you why. I'm going to be specific. There's a lot more that goes to this entire world than you might think. Like, it's not just I made money, I pay my employees, and that's it. It's more than that. I think that something that I appreciate a lot is that I wasn't aware of a lot of the things that I needed to do. For example, I'm one of those guys that with the whole taxes situation, I get nervous because I want to make sure that I do it correctly and that I don't mess up so I don't get in trouble. There's a lot that goes to taxes that I have no clue about. So having Luis protects me from making any of those mistakes.
Mm-hmm.
And the other side, there's a lot of really messed up people in the world, and there's a lot of people that try to mess with you and that try to take advantage of you. Having Luis helps me be protected from those people.
And this is cool about Luis also. Luis says that uno tiene también que gastarse el dinerito. O sea, money, you're supposed to have your things you like as well. He knows I love cars. So, and if I've been working my butt off, he's like, and you like cars? And okay, yeah, buy your Aston Martin or buy the vintage car that you wanted or buy this. And it's like, okay, if it's a smart decision to do, amazing. I feel like a misconception I had was I want to pay the least amount of taxes possible. And Lewis told me, no. You want to pay a lot of taxes because that just means that you made a lot of money. He told me one time, it was like, if you have to pay a lot of taxes, it just means that you made a lot of money. And I was like, okay, you know, like all those things that I didn't really understand before.
So everyone's talking about how everyone is so financially clever. Everyone has this great advice, and you have Louis and you have Alex, and life is hunky dory. Then how come we read about all these artists who lose everything?
I spent half of my life working with billionaires. Then I spent the next portion, like a decade, working with really poor people. Then all of a sudden the entertainment world found me, and now I've been doing this. And so I have had the opportunity with very iconic artists who haven't filed taxes for years, who owe the IRS tons of debt, who've gone through multiple bankruptcies, who've not whatever. And it saddens me, because I will share with you, because they've never taken the principles of money. But let me just give you a quick visual. Mao and Ricky or anybody else, they come to me with very shallow financial foundations, and they're huge stars who've made lots of money, millions. But imagine that you all of a sudden are going to build this building, and they grow on this very shallow foundation. At some point, that foundation will fall. It's building on sand versus.
But what do you mean by foundation? What do you mean?
And the financial foundation is they've never had any systems. Forget about strategies. Forget about how smart you are. Any systems to when Mao and Ricky will tell you that when they make money, we take a chunk, and they know it, and we put it away in a tax savings account. We just take a certain chunk and we put it away because we know that we're going to have to pay taxes. The problem is, el dinero se va muy rápido. People who don't do that just automatically spend it because an artist's career, their income is a roller coaster. Their income is like this. It's not just straight up. They don't have a system for that. They die without an estate plan. As you probably know, I probably worked, and people know that I've worked I worked with Jenny Rivera prior to her passing. We had an estate plan done. Thank God that was done. I'm working with them to get their estate plan done. The foundation now gets deeper. We want to make sure that if they go on tour, that their entities have insurance, that their foundation goes deeper. We want to make sure that they have the proper banking relationships, the proper insurance, the proper vendors around them, a proper team who's nobody's stealing and somebody's keeping an eye on their money. The foundation is deeper. I know that these two young kids here are going to grow like a skyscraper. And they're growing so fast. I basically, the visual that I have, if they should have of me, is I have a shovel and I keep digging the foundation, and I'm sweating, and I can't keep the foundation any deeper because these kids are keep going faster and faster. And so every artist, the problem is if you're talented, you can't help but grow. That's the problem. And they're going to grow, and without the foundation. And let me just tell you, when you walk by this building, Miles in New York right now, he's seeing all these skyscrapers. He's not seeing the foundation of that skyscraper is as deep as could possibly be. And that's why that building stands up so high. And so all the artists that come from Mechanic never save for their taxes, IRS issues. Some people out of the country don't even come into the country for years because they couldn't pay their taxes to avoid the IRS. And so that is the major problem. Now, my goal is this: I can't get, these guys can't be on a keto diet forever. Every once in a while, they have to have a slice of real pizza, not the pizza with whatever, right? And so that's why when Mao and Ricky tell me, ¿Qué son sus gustos? What do you enjoy? What makes you happy? Because at the end, I've never seen a U-Haul behind a hearse. Nobody takes anything with them. And so my goal is for Mao and Ricky to also not only be happy and make money and enjoy the fruits of their labor, but balance it out with a healthy financial nutritional meal. Ricky loves a car. Well, we're saving up for that. We're just not going to buy it because he just got some money and there's no money for anything else. Mao wants to invest. Right now he's meeting with some of the top pre-IPO investors, IPO people, and we're looking at putting together a portfolio for other Latin artists. And so that's what he enjoys. And so we're saving money so he can invest, and he's actually working with Ricky on that. They're putting stuff together for that.
Before we go, I want to ask Alex, you mentioned Armando as one of your good investments. What has been like the best, unlikeliest investment that has paid off beautifully for you, where you maybe, I don't know, gave someone 10 grand 10 years ago and now they're your client? Aside from Armando, that was a pretty good one. But if you can give us another one, it would be great so that we can leave on a high note of hope.
Yeah. So look, I'll go down there. I don't have, again, crystal ball. It just pure fate happens. Individual urban music, let's call it producer, 20 years ago, asked me to lend him $5,000 because, he needed a short little loan for about a week or two until his BMI money was going to come in. We did it. And today, 20 years later, he's probably our number one multifamily office individual. And we work with, a whole array of, I have a team of 3 people working full-time for that person 20 years later. I'll end on one comment. I know that time is short, but you asked the question of the horror side. The horror side, I think if I go back and look at, I think I stand behind every loan that I did that I would do again, because I think if you did the loan in the first place and you have regret, you should have never done a loan. The issue that I've seen as a kind of a mature banker, and what I've learned is that the lack of education and the lack of financial literacy and the lack of the individual having the right team around them is what ultimately contributes to their downfall. Because if they did have somebody, and this is my ending comment to this point, what the hell are you doing with your money? In your face, person, then their life maybe would have changed. And I think what I'm hearing in today's theme and the way we operate is we do have a little bit more of a license to sell people. What the hell are you doing? Why are you, no disrespect to the car collectors and watch collectors, I was okay with that. You need a pizza, but a little slice of pizza every so often. But there's, as I call it with my kids, there's moderation. And I'll end on that.
When you start making money and you start seeing, people are paying you this many thousands of dollars for you to come perform, and you see how much your business made, these many millions this year or whatever, and you start thinking like, you have to be smart. I feel like with Luis, we've realized that maybe we had Miamau. If we were making money, say we were making money last year, we played over 100 shows last year, and that generated so much money that we could have been, and you know what? We could buy a more expensive house. We could get more expensive things, or have, instead of 3 cars, have 10 cars, or but it is smart to wait. And it's smart to say, you know what? It isn't time to do this right now, even though you're seeing that you're making this money. We gotta have the foundation be strong in order for cuando te vayas a dar esos gustos, no vaya a ser algo que it's built on something like Luis was saying, built on sand, that sure, you're going to show off all these prendas and all these watches and all these cars in the first 1 year of your career. But when you're turning to that 3rd, 4th year, it's like, oh wait, where did all this go? Where's the house that I bought smart that I can rely on? Where is this? Because this career is this. If you don't learn how to ride the wave, you crash. This career, you're not always on a high note. You have albums that sell more than others, tours that do better than others, and you have to learn to ride that wave. Mm-hmm. So once you're on the high of the wave, let somebody like Luis and Alex make sure that you have a strong foundation, so when the wave is down, you could still have a slice of pizza, or you could still be sure that what you built is built on solid ground. It's about being smart, and definitely surrounding yourself with people that will teach you, because money is shiny. Mm-hmm. And so are jewelries, watches, cars, houses, all that is shiny. And you're going to want all of it once you're seeing your bank account be fatter and fatter and fatter. But you need people to give you smart advice, and be patient. Be patient. I would say that's a young artist.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, everyone.
Guys, thank you so much for having us. We're so grateful for you, by the way.
No,
thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Well, thank you. Big thank you to you guys.